1 year ago at Mid-Ohio, Jaguar splashed to a rainy victory, the last for any car other than Dan Gurney's all-conquering Toyotas. The Toyota win streak stands at an even dozen. The last 4 belong to defending Camel GT champion Juan Fangio, who has driven his number 99 Toyota Eagle to the limit and beyond in an effort to defend his crown from teammate P.J. Jones. Today, Fangio, Jones, Dan Gurney, and Toyota return to Mid-Ohio. ESPN, the world's leader in motorsports, welcomes you to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where it's clear and dry for round 6 of the IMSA Camel GT Championship. Bob Barsh and David Hobbs with you for the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. Well, David, I think we'd have to admit it's been pretty much a Toyota kind of year in 1993 on the Camel GT Trail. Their winning streak is now at 12, but they have never won here at Mid-Ohio. Would I be a fool to bet against them today?
I think you probably would be, Bob. Although this is a very twisty circuit here in Ohio, and there's a couple of pretty slow corners which could just help the spice, for instance, of Wayne Taylor. You know, a lot of grunt out of that big Chevrolet engine. Could help him off some of those slower corners, but boy, oh boy, it'd be a tough job to bet against them. It's interesting to note, though, here at Mid-Ohio, last year the Indy cars came here and the IMSA cars, and the GTP cars were just slightly quicker than the Indy cars. So I think people are in for a good race, whatever happens.
Get ready for the fastest race cars in the world. Right now, let's get back down to the starting grid where Marty Reed is standing by with our pole sitter.
Thanks, Bob. We're down here with our pole sitter, P.J. Jones, and this is incredible. 1/100th of a second separates you and teammate Juan Fangio. Can you give the viewers an idea what 1/100th is?
Well, I think we just went by about 20 of them, so it's pretty close. You know, I mean, that just shows how well prepared both Toyota Eagles are, and and how even the cars are. And it's and Juan, you know, he did his best to try to beat that time. And when we came in after qualifying, we didn't know who had the pole until about 3 minutes later, until IMSA decided which one it was. So.
Every year, Mid-Ohio seems to be a pivotal race. The person who wins here usually goes on to win the championship. Points battle is so close.
You know, I keep hearing you say that about every race, you know, so let's hope we can win the race and maybe we can win the championship. You know, that's what we're here for.
Third pole in a row for our points leader, P.J. Jones, but someone else has bettered him. 5 poles in a row for the leader of the Camel Lights class here today. He's standing by once again down on the starting grid with Marty Reed.
Well, we're with Camel Lights pole sitter Parker Johnstone. And Parker, your main competition in the Acura class is way in the back. They've had all kinds of problems. Does that make you feel a little more comfortable, or the kudzu's still over your shoulder?
Well, I tell you, with Tim McAdam in the Downing kudzu car and with Bob Earl in the Bob Shader Bricks car, you never can rest. And Bob may be at the back of the field on the pace lap, but I can guarantee you he'll move up really quick. It's going to come down to a very hard 3-car race, and I think whoever conserves their tires the best and looks at the long picture of a very intense 2-hour race is going to fare the best out of this. So I think the one that sprints earliest may be in trouble at the end.
Well, that shot in the background was not them trying to shoot both of us. That's the signal to get racing. We'll let you get in. Good luck.
Thanks, Marty.
All right, thank you, Marty. We'll be back with the starting grid and a closer look at one of the most beautiful and difficult road racing courses in North America. Stand by for more. This ESPN presentation is brought to you by Vice Grip, the original locking pliers, the handyman's best friend. And by Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. Back at Mid-Ohio, the starting grid about to roll off. Let's take an opportunity to take a closer look at what the drivers call 2.25 miles of the most technically demanding racetrack in North America. Take us around, David.
Well, Bob, both the drivers and spectators, this course here is a tremendous challenge. It's a bit narrow, it's got 13 turns, and it really does produce some competitive racing, as Wayne Taylor takes us through turn 1 at about 125 miles an hour in that P car and sets off up this long straightaway up to the keyhole. And this to me is an absolute key corner, surprising enough. Road falls away there, it's difficult, 180 degree, but you really got to come off this corner well, because if you're racing with somebody, you want to stay right with them down this long back straight. But as you see, there's a little right-hand sweep here, which makes it easy to hold people out. You want to be with them because this is where we're going to see most of the overtaking this afternoon, turning into turn 7. Right-hander, third gear in these cars, stay in third gear, up the hill here. car gets very light on the top. Again, you want to be over to the left-hand side of the road here for this right-hander. As you can see, very, very busy, very physical track. Another left-hander, cars get very light on that barrow. Again, you want to make a good apex there because this corner here, this right-hander, again, the road, the car gets real light, so it jumps off the road there. This is the fast sweeping back leg. This is also a difficult corner, adverse camber. Down to third for this, the carousel. Want to take a real tight apex all the way around here so that you can really let the car stretch its legs down here, past the pits, and maybe nail somebody going into that turn one.
Wayne Taylor will be carrying one of our onboard cameras today in an effort to try to break a streak of miserable racing luck. Let's take a look at our BF Goodrich starting grid. On the pole for the third straight race, P.J. Jones and his All-American Racers Toyota. His lap averaged 113.59 miles an hour. Next to him, the defending champion, Juan Fangio, in another Dan Gurney Toyota. Row 2 will be Wayne Taylor in his Danka Motorsports Chevrolet GTP. Next to him, Italian Jean-Pierre Moretti in a turbocharged Nissan. On row 3, Parker Johnstone, Camel Lights leader and two-time defending class champion in an Acura Spice. Next to him, Tim McAdam from Vail, Colorado in a Buick-powered kudzu chassis. Row 4 will be Jim Pace in a Mazda-powered kudzu. Next to him, Miroslav Jonak from Milton, Ontario, Canada in a Ford-powered Spice GTP car. Row 5, Neil Jameson from Canada in a Ford-powered Alba chassis. Next to him, Brent O'Neil from Miami, Florida in a Buick-powered Argo. As you take a look through the rest of the grid, O'Neill's car, one of two world sports car chassis in the field. New, lighter weight, less costly prototype race cars that IMSA says will be their formula in seasons to come. 17 total cars coming out of the keyhole now onto that high-speed backstretch. And here at Mid-Ohio, that is where the start flag is displayed. Up come the RPMs and that 6.5-liter Chevy. The green flag is out and we are underway. And quickly, P.J. Jones dives in front of teammate Juan Fangio.
Snags the lead there going to what they now call turn 7. The field stringing out a little bit, surprisingly, on the start like that. You'd have thought they'd have been more bunched up as they came out of the keyhole. There's Bob Earl, who had no qualifying time, so he is going to have his work really cut out this afternoon to come to grips with Parker Johnstone, the pole sitter in that division.
Quickly, the two Toyotas begin to pull away from Wayne Taylor and Jean-Pierre Moretti in the red and yellow Momo car, and P.J. Jones begins to pull away from Fangio rather handily.
Boy, that is a strong first lap. That's one of the things that the great drivers all display, you know, is the ability to go fast right from the green flag. A lot of people need a little time to play themselves in. P.J. is obviously one of those guys who's always going to be able to stand right on the gas when the word goes.
Now back at the pack, there goes the multicolored number 9, Bob Earl. They had clutch problems in this Motorola Acura Spice chassis. They got the car fixed, and now, as you see, Bob is beginning to motor through the field. The number 40 car there is Neil Jameson. Then Charles Monk.
Bob Earl tucking under the wing of Charles Monk, pulls out on the exit of turn 1. One of the fastest corners here, in fact, the fastest corner here. Now coming up to the 40 car to the keyhole, gets inside him. Oh, a nice move there around the outside of one, on the inside of the other. Bob Earl really stepping on the gas here and making up some time. But he's got a long way to go to catch up with Parker Johnstone.
Well, he's got half the job done. He's up to 8th place. There's a look at Juan Fangio. 4 victories to his credit in 1993, but he still trails teammate P.J. Jones by 5 points for the championship. There's young P.J. And there is Juan Fangio, nephew of the 5-time Formula One World Driving Champion. On board now with Wayne Taylor.
Coming under the bridge, up to 5th gear. Back to 4th for this left-hander. Gets a nice apex there. You've got to be very careful you don't run off to the right because you want to get the car back set up nicely for this carousel.
Don't you know, Wayne Taylor is driving with fingers crossed. The last 2 starts in that car have produced a total of about 3 laps.
Gearboxes whining away on those Toyotas. Of course, with the turbo engine, they're just a little bit quieter than most of the engines. The turbo acting as a sort of a muffler, and you could really hear the gearboxes as they went through that keyhole in a low gear, of course.
Now here comes Bob Earl as he continues to flash through the field. The car just ahead of him, that is Ken Pershauer from Sandusky, Ohio. So Bob Earl is now 3rd in class as he continues to blast through this field, seeking out Parker Johnstone, the class leader.
cool 7 places on that first lap alone. So Bob Earl putting on a great display of virtuoso driving this afternoon here on what is really a driver's track.
Back up front to the Toyota teammates. Once again, Jones followed by Fangio.
Fangio's closed up a little bit though. Now these guys have got no team orders when it comes to racing. Dan Gurney wants to see these guys race. They want to race, and they do.
And we want to watch them race, and we'll be back to do that in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. Bob Barsha, David Hobbs, Marty Reed with you. P.J. Jones and his number 98 All-American Racers Toyota Eagle Mark III leads the race, and we are already lapping the back markers.
Now, of course, this again on this windy circuit here in Ohio is very tough on the fast guys. It's also tough on the slow guys because they're going fast enough to get hurt if they go driving off the road, and they kind of want to look out the front, not look out the back. But it's a big responsibility on the slower cars, and it's hard for the fast ones. Whoa! PJ got
Oh, and Fangio goes underneath. What a great move in traffic as Juan Fangio takes the lead.
Well, that was a bit hairy because if PJ had quickly pulled out from behind those 2 slower cars, he'd have got nailed badly. Held up again going to the keyhole, which of course is going to cost him dearly down this long straight, because if he's like 300 RPM low coming onto that straight, that 300 RPM, he never makes it back up to that whole length of that straight.
Well, that tells you something about the acceleration of these Toyotas. Juan Fangio absolutely disappeared, and now PJ with his foot in it is closing up rapidly.
I tell you, these cars handle well. See the way they come over that hill? I mean, they got yards of road. And these guys are obviously trying pretty hard at the moment as we go back to Parker Johnston leading the lights division in his Acura Spice.
Parker Johnstone from Redmond, Oregon, the 2-time defending class champion, the all-time leader in just about every category except lackadaisical performance. He holds all the pole records, all the victory records, victories in a row, victories with a co-driver, victories by yourself, victory when you pack your own lunch. Absolutely stunning performance by Parker and this Comtech Acura team.
And of course, absolute victory at packing in sponsor messages in as short a time as possible for interviews.
We tease Parker a lot about that, but he knows where his bread is buttered, and he makes sure that the sponsors get their message across.
Yes, Mother's Pride bread and Churnside best butter, creamy butter. There's some great views here on this Spice of the new bubble type front windscreen there this has got the new bodywork there. You see a great view of that, of the bubble screen there that this car now uses.
This is the new Spice bodywork. Ironically, the car that Bob Earl is using to try to catch Parker Johnstone right now is very similar in every way, including the engines, which are built by Parker Johnstone's Comtech team. The team is actually run by Doug Peterson and Don Erb, excuse me, and they build engines for the Bricks Racing team as well. Now on board with Wayne Taylor.
Now you see Wayne Taylor got held out badly on, this is the straight, which is not a straight, and those 2 Camel lights were duking it out, and we heard Wayne lift off there, which cost him dearly on the fastest part of the track to have to lift off. So that's just one of those, some you win, some you lose in the traffic. Oh boy, that 40 nearly lost his whole front end there, I'd say.
Neil Jameson got the door slammed soundly on him. There to the left of your screen in the Momo Nissan is Jean-Pierre Moretti.
Ooh, he's gonna go around the outside. He is too.
He's running 4th right now behind Wayne Taylor, and as you can see, working hard to try to get around lap traffic and close up.
Both of them having trouble. Of course, those lap guys there, they're all racing for position, so they're not just about to give up and move out of the way. And like I say, with so many curves here, one after the other, it's very, very difficult to weave your way through traffic.
That is Brent O'Neil in that number 25 car. As you watch Wayne Taylor now, you can pick out the World Sports Car chassis because they have no roofs. They are open cockpit cars, as all World Sports Cars must be in the future.
Well, let's hope Wayne's luck holds out a bit better today than it's been doing in the past. He goes for the keyhole, nice line through there. Doesn't put a wheel over the edge, which is good. Coming up to that straight where he just got badly balked, this time up into 5th gear, flat out down the straight here. Probably in this car about 180. Toyota's probably doing 190 or more down there.
6.5-liter Chevrolet V8. The same sort of heads used on the NASCAR Winston Cup cars. These make about 750 horsepower. And Wayne Taylor is the ramrod in a new World Sports Car program for next year. 10 or 11 different manufacturers designing World Sports Car chassis for the 1994 season. Wayne Taylor will be in one of them if all goes well. Leaders once again, Juan Fangio onto the backstretch, up, as David mentioned, to about 190 miles an hour, and then hard on the brakes. They used to use carbon brakes in these cars. Now they're on steel brakes, and it doesn't seem to be slowing Juan down at all as he goes around Bob Earl, running third in the Camel Lights class. All is ready in the pits. We'll be back. Pit stop's probably not far away. Track Facts are brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
It's always interesting to find out where new racing technology is coming from. The Comtech Acura team is developing a new shock system. They sent Chris Mellon, of all places, to the Mickey Thompson Stadium Off-Road Series. Now, Chris, the problem is you found it was you're taking technology that they're using with 14 inches to 18 inches of travel, and you're trying to compress that down into 1.5 inches of travel. What have you come up with so far?
Well, Marty, we're trying to do it mechanically with the valves on top of the piston, as opposed to using a needle jet that we usually use on our system. So what we've done is we've changed the piston design to try to open the valve sooner and have better control of the shocks. And it's moving along okay. We're just trying to.
Now, this is the current design, and this is the new design, and you can easily see the difference. What is the key element?
Key element is trying to flow the fluid through so that it'll lift the valve and open it off of this plate at the right speed, because we're trying, it's a combination of things, of holding the car at the correct ride height so that the aerodynamics will work, and the movement of the shock and its speed. All this is interrelated, and we're trying to control it.
The one thing that's interesting, this is still test technology. It hasn't been used on the racetrack, but if it is successful, this team is again one step ahead of the competition.
Well, it's interesting that racers will give us a look into their futures. Our thanks to Chris Mellon. As you watch race leader Juan Fangio going underneath Camel Lights leader Parker Johnstone. That is how fast these Toyotas are circulating.
Obviously, Chris Mellon has not been to the AJ Foyt of secrecy school, as the 98 car comes through that bunch of traffic. Here we see more Camel Light traffic going down the straight.
That's the second place car. Tim McAdam sharing with Jim Downing, a three-time class champion. A huge wreck at the most recent round at Lime Rock, Connecticut. Something broke on the car. McAdam made a sharp right turn into an earthen berm, nearly flipped the car and tore it all up. Now what's going on in the pits here? We have water for a cool suit. Something going on down there, Marty.
Well, Bob, you're absolutely right. Take a look at that container just to the left of Dick Lepla. It is totally melted, so the cool suit has malfunctioned, and when you're 69 years old, you need that cool suit, especially when the temperatures are 85 degrees outside. Now, they are also taking a look at the brakes up front. They're worried that they may be getting a little bit of a soft pedal, but getting back to the major problem, this is the last race for this car and the last race for Dick Lepla. Now, Lepla at 69 was one of the original co-owners on Jim Truman's first Indy car that Bobby Rahal drove, so this would be a sad way to go out if he cannot finish this race.
All right, thank you, Marty. We're on board once again with Wayne Taylor. There's a look at young Wayne without his helmet on. Dick Lepla, we wish you a happy retirement. He is not stepping away from racing, however. He is also partners with Jim Truman's former crew chief, Steve Horn, in an Indy Lights effort. There's a look at Jean-Pierre Moretti. Dick Lepla, 69 years of age. Jean-Pierre Moretti well into his 50s and approaching his 150th career Camel GT start.
I thought you were going to say approaching his 150th birthday for a minute.
That would put him in your class.
But this guy, Wayne Taylor, there you see Wayne looking in his mirror now, because Jean-Pierre Moretti in the Nissan is catching him up very fast now. Now, of course, what Moretti needs is some traffic, and just what Wayne Taylor does not want. Wayne streaking down the front straight here into that very fast turn one, and there's no doubt about it. Moretti is making ground on this guy.
Wayne Taylor intimately familiar with this chassis. It was once known as a Chevrolet Intrepid, now a Chevrolet GTP. And Wayne Taylor brought it its only victory at the New Orleans street race a couple of seasons ago in a torrential downpour. So the South African Taylor, now living in the Altamont Springs area near Orlando, Florida, with his wife and children, is the ramrod of this team, and it's a car that he really knows well.
Had some good times with old Wayne back in South Africa in about 1984 when I was out there with John Fitzpatrick. Met him and his sponsor at the time, Pretoria Brick Company, and had a couple of good evenings out in Johannesburg. And look at that now. Jean-Pierre right on top of him. Has Wayne got a problem?
Wayne was a little slow off that corner. You're right, David. Now he's got traffic ahead of him.
And it's been ahead of him for some corners. See, that's the problem with this racetrack, where the road constantly moves. It's very hard to lap cars, even going considerably slower than yourself, unless you're extremely aggressive.
That was Steve Deeks from Warwickshire, England, in an Alfa Romeo-powered Phoenix Camel GT chassis that Wayne and Jean-Pierre just went by.
And now there's another car in front of Wayne, which he's going to catch up right as he comes into turn 1. No, he managed to get by it. That was the number 40 car.
That's Neil Jameson from Canada in a 3-liter Ford-powered Alba chassis.
Now, both these cars are examples of real high downforce. This Intrepid that was of Wayne Taylor's always gave good downforce right from the beginning, and so did that NTP Nissan. Used to be driven by Jeff Brabham to so many successes just a couple of years ago, but it has got a little bit more horsepower than the Chevrolet car, so coming down this straight, he's going to be able to wind him in, I would think.
6.5-liter Chevy V8 against 3-liter twin-turbo Nissan, and Moretti goes down the outside of this corner. Whoa!
Now is he going to be able to slip by it? No.
Had to brake a little harder at the apex of that corner, so he didn't have the grunt going up the hill. Jean-Pierre Moretti's going to have to drop back about 15 yards and take another run at it.
Now I see more traffic up there. Wayne Taylor thinking, oh, you ought to hope this works out right. He doesn't want to catch it in this next left-hand sweeper because it'll slow him up considerably. And if he does catch it right here, he needs to be able to slip by before they get to the carousel.
That's Miroslav Jonek in that yellow Spice chassis with a Ford engine. The Nissan took a look underneath Taylor in the hairpin, but because of Jonek's car up ahead, Jean-Pierre already had to get out of it. Now he'd like to look around the outside, but there is Charles Monk in that Porsche.
Hard to go on outside pass there. Again, it foiled Moretti there, but he seems to be pulling alongside as they come into the keyhole. This is going to be a difficult pass around the outside, but it looks like he's done it, yes.
From on board, Jean-Pierre Moretti takes 3rd place and demotes Wayne Taylor to 4th as they go on to the back stretch. Now let's see if the Nissan motors away. And sure enough, Jean-Pierre Moretti has power to spare on the back stretch.
Well, there's no doubt about it, the way that Moretti caught Wayne Taylor up. One assumes that he is in fact lapping a little bit quicker. Now, has Wayne Taylor got a problem again? You know, he's had such a star-crossed year, you begin to wonder. But Moretti may have just got into his stride.
Meanwhile, race leader Juan Fangio in the number 99 pulls up behind the World Sports Car open-top chassis of Brent O'Neil and slides around on the high-speed backstretch. Fangio looking for his 5th straight victory and the lead in the 1993 Camel GT Championship. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in round 6 of the International Motorsports Association Camel GT season. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs with you. Marty Reed patrols the pit lane. There goes P.J. Jones and his Toyota Eagle Mark III. His teammate Juan Fangio is out front and pulling away. Here he comes. 99 is Fangio. There's the gap back to the 98 of Jones. And in a distant 3rd place at this point, Jean-Pierre Moretti in the Momo Nissan.
Fangio going around Wayne Taylor, who's running in 4th spot at the moment. We saw that incredible pass that Fangio put on his teammate Jones at turn 1 there a few laps ago, and he really has stretched out. And just look at the way he pulls away from Wayne Taylor down this back straight. 6.5 litre Chevrolet versus 2.2 litre 4-cylinder Toyota, but of course the big difference is the Toyota is turbocharged.
Tremendous investment made by Toyota in this team. It has dominated the series, looking for its 13th straight victory. There's Parker Johnstone in the Dayglow orange and white Acura Spice.
A lot of traffic here. Now this is going to slow Fangio up considerably. He won't be able to get past between here and at least the next right-hander, which of course has allowed his teammate Jones to catch right up to him. Whoa, and of course Parker wants to pass that slower car as well.
As they go 3 wide, Jones almost gets caught up against Parker Johnstone.
Parker
That was close.
So again, the 2 lead Toyotas right in hand in glove here.
There's another look. There goes Fangio as Johnstone makes it 3 wide, going around Neil Jameson. And then, oh boy, that was a heck of a cloud up against that 8-inch curbing.
Exactly, and there's a big drop off there. So if you get a wheel over the edge, you can easily break a rim. And on the edge of the road there, as Jones now right up the exhaust pipe of this teammate.
Well, we've talked about the speed of these Toyotas. What Jones is doing right now is a testament to the sturdiness of the cars. After clouding that curb to make the pass, Jones now dives inside his teammate. Whoa, did they touch?
I don't think so, but it was pretty close. Just a little dab of the brakes. He went up the rise there. Still those cars not using all of that road up. They just, both these cars been driven exceptionally well. Great pass there by Jones. Helped enormously by the traffic. And that could happen lots more times this afternoon. As on this, here we see it again.
Yeah, I think
inside.
No contact there, but it was very close.
Only because Fangio pulled away and let him through. Meanwhile, you can see behind them nothing, which just shows the incredible speed of these cars, because just 1.5 laps ago, Wayne Taylor was right with the 99 car.
P.J. Jones, just 24 years of age, yet he's already lived out several racing fantasies. There's the number 25 machine of Brent O'Neil. This is the open cockpit two-seater concept, the world sports car. This is actually just a chopped off version of a P car. You see the right rear corner suffering severe deflation.
It doesn't seem, yeah, luckily it doesn't seem to have done much damage to the bodywork. One of the worst things that can happen when you have a puncture is the tire flails around and breaks this relatively fragile bodywork. It doesn't seem to have done any damage.
Meanwhile, back on the racetrack, this is the second place car in the Camel Lights class, the number 63 of Tim McAdam, coming under fire from the race leader.
He's going to make him go the long way around, so this is the traffic now playing into the hands of Fangio. Except he'll probably catch Tim McAdam as they go into turn 1. No, he won't quite make it, so that will give him a good run through turn 1, and he'll blast by Tim McAdam coming off 1 as they go up to what is now turn 2, but of course is numbered differently because the track used to be different shape, as you can see from that shot.
Obvious speed differential between the state-of-the-art in the GTP category and the very quick Camel Lights car. Now Brent O'Neil with a new right rear tire gets back underway once again. Now slower traffic up ahead as P.J. Jones comes through. Whoa, and Fangio just behind nearly clipped that car. And he's going to take a look down the inside. Jones drifts over to block him, but it won't work. Fangio at 99 comes back to try for the race lead.
I tell you, these two guys, they race harder than any other two people I've ever seen in a racetrack. Even in other teams, in opposing teams, I've never seen two guys try so much. They must respect each other and trust each other absolutely implicitly.
And now Jones comes down the outside. Right-hander coming up, but he'll have the advantage to the inside. Oh, he doesn't get it. He takes a tap and goes off and taps back. Well, before we pronounce them kissing cousins, this one is turning into a slugfest.
That was a hard pass to pull off. Went round the outside of the right-hander, which left him on the inside for the left, which was fine, but amazingly well placed considering he hit the grass on the way through. There's the car we just see in the pits, Brent O'Neil, and here we see it again.
One hit right there. Jones back off the racetrack again, comes back on, tags Fangio again. He needs to go straight on, get out of the throttle. Whoa. Full contact auto racing. Now Parker Johnstone in the Acura comes to the middle of the track to pass, but he has to be watching his mirrors. Approaching some 40 miles an hour faster, the GTP machine of P.J. Jones.
Going around the outside there of Bobby Brown, a bit of a risky thing at turn 1 there. Bobby Brown had wanted to use up a bit more road. He'd have had that 98 car of Jones out well onto the grass.
Once again, the race leaders lap the Camel Lights leader, and there's no dishonor in that for Parker Johnstone. These Toyota Eagle Mark IIIs are absolute lightning around here, and we'll talk a little bit more about why when we return to the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. Stay with us. P.J. Jones is in the pits, and Marty Reed is there.
Race leader P.J. Jones brings the lead Toyota to a stop, and now it's going to be a race to the pit crews. These two guys have been going after it from the start, switching the lead back and forth a couple of times, getting a squirt on the windshield, 4 fresh Goodyears, full tank of fuel. The fuel will be the slowest part, but they've already got him down and away. A great stop.
17.7 seconds. Marty was right. It's a battle of the pit stops between the teammates. We'll have to see if the All-American Racers Toyota team can get Juan Fangio out as quickly as that. He's lighting up one of those cold tires.
I think so, exactly. Yeah, you can see the smoke coming off that left front as he braked for the keyhole. I don't think it was a bad enough lock-up to give him much of a flat spot problem, because that's the last thing you want is a flat spot on a brand new tyre. Again, weaving your way through that slower traffic down the straight. Not as easy as it sounds here at Mid-Ohio, because that straight has that subtle curve to it.
Juan Fangio now the race leader, but we anticipate he too will take his pit stop fairly shortly.
Well, this is the carousel. If he's going to peel off, this is going to be where it is. No.
Juan Fangio will stay out there. David, we talked about why these cars are so quick, quicker than the Indy cars when they journey to Mid-Ohio. Why is that?
Well, the reason, Bob, is all that aerodynamic aid that these fully enclosed cars have got. An Indy car's got open wheels, which definitely restricts your ability to generate downforce. These cars, of course, with a fully enveloping body. You can see on the front there the two wings, fender wings, double-sided, both on the right and the left. You've got like a twin tail.
And of course, all of that Toyota horsepower, nearly 800 horsepower, before IMSA demanded that they choke down on the restrictors that allow air into the turbochargers. Hard to say how much horsepower they're making right now, but they run with tremendous turbo boost.
But of course, everywhere on this car, you've got intercoolers, you've got radiator coolers, you've got oil coolers, and all of that ducting is also used to great effect to help push these cars down the road, and it's much more difficult to do with those open wheels. Those open wheels, of course, cause tremendous turbulence, which really mess up straight line speed and, of course, downforce. These cars have a lot less problem with that.
The car won in only its second start and has won the last 12 races in a row. Now Fangio is in. Keep in mind the number that pit crew will shoot for, 17.7 seconds. Here's Marty.
And Juan Fangio comes screaming into pit lane, hits the marks exactly, and now the battle really begins, because now the crew has to get him out before P.J. Jones comes around to take the lead. Jones looks like he's coming through carousel. Yes, here he comes. Down the front straightaway. He's off the jacks. Here's P.J. He's going to have the lead. They're holding Juan for fuel. It's taking a lot longer to get more fuel into this tank.
And so with a squeal of tires, the 99 of Juan Fangio II is back on the racetrack. Now I wonder if that means fuel was slower going into Fangio's car, or did they not get a full tank in this car, the number 98 of race leader P.J. Jones?
Very good philosophizing. I was just thinking exactly the same thing myself. He's trying to put some temperature into his tires before he brakes for this tight right-hander, the hardest braking corner in the track. Wayne Taylor, now he comes into the pits.
Let's get back down to Marty Reed.
And the fourth place, Wayne Taylor, brings in the Konica Chevrolet. Now he is already one lap down in this battle with the Toyotas. It's sort of running second in class to the Nissan Momo, but this car running better than it has in its prior two races. So Taylor's got to be encouraged at least with that new development, because this team's had such bad luck the last two races. Anything would be an improvement. 4 fresh tires, a full load of fuel, and again, fuel becoming the long, drawn-out process here. Remember, IMSA changed the rules, and he is being held for a penalty. So a 10-second penalty on Wayne Taylor, and oh, that's such a frustrating feeling for a driver.
Well, as if he didn't have enough troubles, a 43-second stop is far too long. The infraction apparently was no fire bottle over the wall.
Now here comes Bob Earl. Remember, this is a Camel Lights car, so there will have to be a driver change sooner or later. This is as good a time as any to make it. And yes, there is Bob Shader, his co-driver, about to climb in. Here's Marty Reed once again.
Bob Shader climbing in, and Bob Burrell getting out, as this team has been thrashing to get their way back to the front. They are still trailing Parker Johnstone and fighting their way to try and get back into contention with them. They were losing some time there for a while, almost a second a lap to Parker Johnstone in the Acura. The driver change almost complete. They're still waiting to get the fuel, and it looks as though they've got a problem. Now they get it refired, and he's underway.
Colorado lawyer Bob Shader taking over for Bob Earl, and there are more problems with that car. They tested extensively here. They're trying to bump start the car. Now Shader is underway.
Well, that's something they didn't want either. It's a long stop there, as if they didn't have enough going against them today anyway.
Number 98 is race leader P.J. Jones. Bob Earl commented that after their crash at Lime Rock, that they had an entirely different car when they rebuilt it and brought it here to Mid-Ohio. As a result, none of their testing settings worked for them. They had to start from scratch. We'll be back with more from Mid-Ohio when we return to the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. We'll show you the top 10. Stay with us. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. You know, race fans are a literary lot. And the big literary news this weekend at Mid-Ohio was a book signing. Derrick Bell, two-time world sports car champion, autographing pictures and copies of his autobiography, My Racing Life. Actually a pretty good read. Ask Derrick for a free copy. Tell him David Hobbs sent you. There is the self-same Derrick Bell. 5 times winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, one of the most successful endurance racers of all time, and that is who he is waiting for, Jean-Pierre Moretti in their Nissan twin-turbo 3-liter sports car.
Derrick Bell standing by to bring in Jean-Pierre Moretti and the 3rd place, Momo Nissan. The driver change will take place. This is one of the best runs Moretti's had in quite a while, and he has done a great job of turning over the car with the Derrick Bell in superb shape. The only problem is they can't catch the Toyotas, but surprise, nobody else can. Bell is in, the connections being made between the air cooling system and also the radio. Again, tires are on, and the fuel, the slowest part of the process. Just waiting for the full load to be put into the tank. There it is, the car will go down, and Derrick Bell.
Nissan down and away. Derrick Bell at the keyboard. There is race leader P.J. Jones flashing down the backstretch. And here comes Juan Fangio about to put Derrick Bell a lap down. Meanwhile, back in the pit lane, Marty Reed has caught up with Jean-Pierre Moretti.
Well, down here with the Jean-Pierre Moretti, awfully hot in the cockpit. I don't know how you felt about it, but it looked like this was one of your best drives in quite a while.
Thank you. It is like an old chicken. More older I become, I drive better.
What about the car right now? Obviously, the Toyotas are class of the field.
Yeah, okay. Forget the Toyota. They are another world. But our car is running beautiful. Handling beautiful, brakes, engine, everything. I really enjoy it, probably because I was enjoying it so much that I was driving well. And then I had this fight with Wayne Taylor, and you go excited.
Well, Jean-Pierre Moretti currently leading his class.
Special. Thank you.
Now, Jean-Pierre, we don't want you getting too excited. You had your 50th the other day. Just remember the old heart there and all that sort of thing. But it was a good race between him and Wayne Taylor, and he did drive exceptionally well this afternoon.
Not often you hear the old chicken analogy anymore. Derrick Bell coming to terms with the car. Meanwhile, in the Camel Lights battle, Parker Johnstone still out front. Johnstone's pole here in the Camel Lights class marked the first time in series history that a Lights driver had taken 3 straight poles at Mid-Ohio. It was the 20th straight for Acura, mostly at the hands of this man. In fact, last year, Parker Johnstone swept all 13 poles on the season, the first time anybody had done that.
You know, when he has that headshot taken, he's got that smile. He's actually talking about sponsors without moving his lips. It's very clever the way he does that.
Give Parker a break. You saw the second place car, the number 63 of Tim McAdam and Jim Downing, being overtaken by a Toyota. P.J. Jones, meanwhile, flying. Whoa, wait a minute. The pointy end goes forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Off the racetrack. Let's see if they can keep it fired and get back on. That is the number 10 machine, Ed DeLong from Ontario, Canada, a former European C2 car.
Now he carves up the leader as well. It's not his afternoon, perhaps.
That's the race leader, P.J. Jones, taking poor Ed. That's an old 3-liter Buick. The Buicks are allowed up to 3.4 liters of displacement to keep them on a par with the Acuras. Old 3-liter Buick Taiga. Ed DeLong having an eventful race, but up front it is P.J. Jones. Meanwhile, in the Comtech Acura pit, working over the computers. We'll be back. It's Jones and Fangio in a Toyota 1-2. Back at Mid-Ohio in the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. Bob Barsha, David Hobbs with you, running all alone on their own lap. The Toyota teammates, P.J. Jones right there, and just behind, Juan Fangio. Should the race finish this way, it would mark the 7th 1-2 sweep for the Toyota team, and that would tie Nissan for the all-time Camel GT record. Meanwhile, there is class leader Parker Johnstone.
Jones going through that very difficult 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 complex. As we go back to Derrick Bell, settling into his stint now. Derrick's had some good races here. In fact, I remember having a terrific race against Derrick back in 1984 when I drove Bruce Levin's Porsche 962. He was driving with Al Holbert, the late Al Holbert, unfortunately. We had a tremendous race right down to the last 2 laps. Needless to say, we don't have to say who won.
There is Wayne Taylor, who suffered a 10-second penalty in the pits for not having the fire extinguisher in hand when he made his pit stop.
And he didn't need that at all because he was already trailing the Moretti Bell car anyway, and his pit stop was longer than theirs anyway, and then they added another 10 seconds on top, so he had a bad break there.
Parker Johnstone continues to circulate. He will have to pit. You saw him put that right rear tire off. He will have to pit sooner or later. When he does so, Dan Marvin will take over the car. No loss of driving talent there, but the Camel Lights cars must pit and make a driver change.
I tell you, for a guy who's got this class pretty well locked up, old Bartlett doesn't hang around, does he? We saw him put a wheel over the edge just right there, so he's driving very hard.
Now here are the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place cars in the Camel Lights class. Number 9, Bob Shader there, trying to avoid being put a lap down by that yellow and blue number 63 of Tim McAdam and Jim Downing. Jim Pace in the green car is running 4th in the class, sharing with Ken Parshauer this weekend. There is the class leader, Parker Johnstone. A few pit stops still in the future, so the order in the Camel Lights class could still be juggled as these guys make their mandatory stops. Now, today's race is just one of many activities going on a very full weekend. In fact, our own Marty Reed took part in some of the other activities. Here he files a report. Marty?
One of the neat happenings that occurs on IMSA weekend at Mid-Ohio is the annual MS Challenge race. Now, with the help of IMSA and the track, the Columbus chapter of the Multiple Sclerosis Society has put this event on for 10 consecutive years. They bring out 20 identically prepared spec racers. And the talent gamut, well, it's from the first-time racer to a very experienced group. In fact, the first winner of this race was a guy by the name of Roger Penske. Now, I'm not in his league, but I've been invited to have some of the fun. What's really great about this event, though, is we all have helped raise, over the past 10 years, over $250,000 to help fight the battle against MS.
All right, Marty, you just drive the car. David and I are the commentators. Now, we might also point out that our own Marty Reed, right there in number 14, is the 2-time defending champion in this event. David, how about a little critique?
Well, no wonder we had to get this on the program there. Aced out there badly, going, oh, spins that guy around, drives up the grass himself, lucky not to get away. Oh,
moments later, same point on the racetrack, Marty takes a little of his own medicine.
Pathetic.
Well, Nigel Mansell's not in jeopardy.
I think you got that right.
Phone message for Mr. Marty Reed. AJ Foyt wants his number back. And so another great racing dynasty, another great streak brought to a conclusion. Toyota's, however, is still alive and looking good here at Mid-Ohio. P.J. Jones, right there on the left of your screen, is out front. Wayne Taylor moves over to let him by, but someone else is on the line.
Now, this is the sort of thing that can really jeopardize a man's lead. Wayne Taylor struggling to get past that slower car there, and meanwhile, just out in the corner of the picture there is going to be P.J. Jones. There he goes through into turn 1. All that downforce we were talking about earlier, helping through those fast turns. The thing about downforce is if you're brave enough, the faster you go, of course, the more the thing sticks. It's just hard to tell yourself that when you're going into the corner at 160 miles an hour.
Noisy downshift there for Wayne Taylor. Sounded like he was having a little bit of trouble with the differential. And we mentioned other activities going on any race weekend. The next stop for the Camel GT Series will be Watkins, Glen, New York, site of one of the newest traditions, a charity softball game between the Camel GT stars and their counterparts from NASCAR's Busch Grand National Series. It's great action. Here's Ward Burton. Long fly out to P.J. Jones leading today's race. Chance for the drivers to show off their athletic skills. There's Dennis Punch, brother of ESPN Speed World's Jerry Punch. Ernie Irvan at the bat, appropriately pinstriped. Wonder if he ran into anybody. Nevertheless, it's a great event, makes a lot of money for charity, and very worthwhile. If you'd like to come to the Chemung County Celebrity Softball Game, it's Thursday, June 24th, 7:30 p.m. at Eldridge Stadium in Elmira, New York. And we're looking for a big walk-up. Make sure you turn out. A beautiful day here at Mid-Ohio. P.J. Jones and Juan Fangio out front. Derrick Bell runs in third. We'll be back in a moment. Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio, in the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio here on ESPN. 24-year-old P.J. Jones leads the race, hoping to hold his 5-point lead or perhaps fatten it up over teammate Juan Fangio in the run for the 1993 Camel GT Championship. Elder son of Parnelli Jones, P.J.'s younger brother Paige Jones is also making a name for himself. There is Parker Johnstone still waiting for that pit stop. He is the leader in the Camel Lights class. Parker recently had the opportunity to achieve a lifetime dream, drove an Indy car, a Lola Chevy A, for the shooting of a television commercial. Said it was great. I had my whole IndyCar career in one day. The car caught fire during a pit stop, the clutch broke, the dash readout quit. Now there is second and third place in the class. The second place car is the yellow 63 of Tim McAdam. Third place car of Bob Shader just going out of view.
PJ making a tremendous change of direction there because he was going to go on the inside of Wayne Taylor, and because he realized that Camel Light car was there and had to make a dramatic change and go around the outside, pulled that off pretty smartly.
PJ goes around Bob Shader. Now Wayne Taylor will look to the inside, and now you see, in fairness to the Camel Lights cars, they can't just disappear. They have to hold their own racing line, especially in a battle for position.
And of course the other problem is that once you go around that turn, you're absolutely trapped by them because the road just moves forever, so it's hard to get around.
Question now, when will Parker Johnstone stop to hand over to Dan Marvin? P.J. Jones, of course, doesn't need to stop, although we are concerned about the level of fuel in that car. He had a very quick pit stop, may not have gotten a fuel tank. Now Tim McAdam is about to come around. He too has to head for the pits one of these days. In fact, here he is now. Here's Marty.
Tim McAdam slowly on the pit lane. Now that he sees the pit, pulls it in. This team is trailing the Acura of Parker Johnstone by roughly 28 seconds when this stop was made. Now remember, the Acura has not made its stop yet, so Parker and Dan Marvin will have to make the driver change. Right now, Jim Downing is climbing into the cockpit. Tim McAdam climbs out. 4 fresh tires, full tank of fuel, and this will be the only stop that this car will have to make, and then it will be a showdown between Downing and Dan Marvin when he climbs in momentarily. In fact, that pit stop should be happening within the next lap or two.
The good news for Jim Downing is he gets to drive the car, but I think the bad news is I thought I saw Tim McAdam throw away the umbilical cord, if you will, to the cool suit, the cool water container that circulates throughout a vest the driver wears. So Jim Downing may be getting to a very hot race car with no support whatsoever.
And I tell you, this track on a hot day, I remember being carted up to the medical tent when I drove that BMW 320 Turbo here back in 1978. And I mean, I was in there for about 45 minutes being iced down and generally resuscitated because it's a very, very physical track. And of course, these cars have much more grip than the IMSA cars did back 12 or 14 years ago. So they're even more hard to drive. All these guys have got to wear a cool suit.
Juan Fangio goes around Parker Johnstone. You can see the tremendous speed differential between the big GTP cars, including the turbocharged cars like the Toyota and the Camel Lights machines.
There's no doubt that PJ has certainly got this race by the scruff of the neck. He's pulled well away from his teammate now. I'm not quite sure of the time. I'll try and time it next time around, but he is a long, long way in front of Juan Fangio.
Thinking of the physicality of driving these cars, P.J. Jones is a big, strapping man, goes about 6'1", very strong, built like a linebacker. Juan Fangio, his teammate, however, very slight in build. And as a result, Fangio may be suffering a bit more than PJ. And Fangio puts a wheel off.
Fangio is generally driving much harder. I've noticed that pretty well every one of these corners he's using up more road than PJ. He comes closer to the apex and he comes further out on the way out.
17 cars in the race. The only two that are remotely similar are the two identical Toyota cars. And I say that only because perhaps they are not identical. The drivers set them up the way they like them. And as you pointed out, David, perhaps Juan Fangio hasn't hit the setup quite as well as this man, PJ Jones.
Certainly trying very hard as PJ goes over that brow. You can see how the cars must lose grip on that brow because it's covered in black marks, which is where these wheels just give a little bit of a chirp of wheel spin as they go over it.
Juan Fangio was fighting a mean push in his car, an understeer, the car wanting to go off the track. Now Parker Johnstone had better pit sometime soon because he is probably reaching the limit of fuel and tires, and they have to get Dan Marvin into the car. Pit entry right around this corner, and yes, Parker Johnstone is in. He's not the only one in. Ken Parshauer brings his car in as well. Here's Marty.
And here comes Parker Johnstone with the lead Acura. First place, Camel Light. Oh, he overruns the mark just a little bit, but it will not hurt the team's efforts. Plenty of hose length as far as the refueling rig. Having a little bit of trouble getting out from underneath the safety belt. Dan Marvin climbs in, and he throws the gloves out over the pit wall. Parker trying, as the 4 tires go on, to help Dan Marvin get back in. This may be one of those cases where the driver change is going to take longer than the fuel. It would be a rarity. They're still hooking up radios and still hooking up the belts. The fueling's done. They're waiting for the drivers. This is one of the few times I've seen this crew make a slow driver change, and it could be costly to them. Also, notice the window on the left side. It looks like it's a little bit ajar, but they're pushing him out, and he's underway.
He may be underway, but it looks as though they dropped the car on Parker Johnstone's foot. You saw him wince. Now here's Charles Monk. He's sharing with John Higgins this weekend. This will be the last race for this car. These two men and their team commissioned this car from Dave Klim's Fab Car Shops in Atlanta, put a non-turbocharged 6-cylinder Porsche in the machine, and it is running its last race today. There is Dan Marvin underway. Meanwhile, Marty has caught up with his co-driver, Parker Johnstone.
Well, you came in with a nice, comfortable lead, and everything seemed to be going absolutely perfect, but I think that's the slowest driver switch I've seen the two of you make.
Well, we just had a problem with one of the shoulder harnesses hanging up. I mean, the Comtech Racing crew is one of the best crews in professional racing, and it's something as silly as that it cost you a lot of time that you've built up on the racetrack. But the car was fantastic. The thing that surprised me is the Goodyear tires, as hot as it is out here, just kept going and going and going, and the traffic was like being in LA on the 405, and sometimes it was frustrating and sometimes it was fun, but from everybody at Acura, they did a fantastic job. It's a great race car. Now comes the hard part, waiting.
Parker Johnstone watching teammate Dan Marvin at work. You might have noticed when they open, it's not really a door really, it's a window in that canopy to get the new driver in. All of the various tubes and wires they had to unplug, and working in such a small confined space, it's easy to see how they can get the belts tangled. We have time for a quick timeout. Pit stop's just about completed. We'll be back. Plenty of great racing still to come. Stay with us. Back at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, Marty Reed with you for the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. Here comes the race leader, PJ Jones, trying to put another lap on Derrick Bell in the Momo Nissan. And there, coming over the rise, is his teammate, Juan Fangio, slicing around the slower car of Ed DeLong. And there's the race leader in the Camel Lights class in the Acura Spice, the white and day-glow orange car. That's Dan Marvin, one of the all-time winningest drivers in the history of the Toyota Formula Atlantic Series. Speaking of Toyotas, it's been a Toyota kind of day. They run 1-2 right now, hoping to match the all-time record for 1-2 sweeps by a single team. Oof.
I tell you what, the signs of the times and how technology's changed. I mean, just a couple of years ago, that Nissan that Derrick Bell was driving decimated the field in the same way that Jones and Fangio are doing it today, and Derrick is not going to give up without a bit of a struggle here. Jones must have a big problem.
Oh yeah, Jones is slowing. The car is rattling. A gearbox possibly.
Well, the way he's swerving around there, I wonder if he's trying to slough fuel into it or something.
There's his teammate taking over the lead. Juan Fangio dashes out front. pit entry coming up.
Obviously,
and
PJ will head for it, yeah.
Absolutely. Marty Reed is standing by in the pit lane. This could be a disaster for PJ Jones. Let's get down to Marty.
PJ Jones has to make an early stop. Now, we speculated and thought about down here in the pit lane and never got a complete answer on it from the team that they may not have gotten a full load when they made that great first stop, but now they are making a 4-tire change, and it will be questionable whether or not he'll be able to go the entire distance. PJ Jones is out of here.
Another quick stop for PJ Jones, and the car appears to sound better on the way out. Might have been just a fuel problem.
It could have been. Perhaps they didn't put enough fuel in that first time around, like we speculated, and he just ran out of fuel early than meant to.
Brake dust flashing off of the wheels as he gets the car up to speed. Let's get back down to Marty.
All right. First question was, did PJ get a full load on the first stop?
Well, very possibly they didn't, although they saw the fuel coming up, which says that they did. So we were concerned about the difference in the length of time for 2 stops, so maybe this explains it. We don't know.
So you're not concerned? You think this will sort of even everything out?
Same problem.
Dan Gurney seems to indicate that the problems continue for his team. Fangio flashes by the pit, so he obviously didn't feel that if he was the one with the problem, he wasn't going to pit. It must be PJ continuing to suffer from what might be a fuel pickup problem. He's got fuel in the tank, they just can't get it into the engine.
The Fangio car there, number 99, from what we can hear now, sounds fine as it goes rocketing down the straight. Again, trying to take another lap off DB there in the red Nissan. Twin-turbo V6 opposed to a single-turbo 4-cylinder, giving away about 1 liter of displacement. Just an incredible little engine in these Toyotas. Absolutely outstanding. And incredibly reliable, too.
Well, that was the bane of the team in the early going, was reliability. They went through a lot of turbochargers, had a lot of problems with gearboxes and things like that, getting tremendous horsepower out of this little 2-liter engine, a 4-cylinder motor. They pump up the turbo boost to about 4 times what they run in Indy cars. And you're right, they have had absolutely stunning reliability. Now, Juan Fangio's pit board is out there. Here's Marty Reed.
Well, surprise, surprise. Here is Juan Fangio screaming into the pits again. He locks up the rear wheels, hits the marks exactly. Now, we thought that PJ did not get a full load, but this now proves, as you heard Dan Gurney say, that it was a situation where both cars did not get a full load. It'll be interesting to see how long this stop takes. Remember, he lost 6 seconds the last time these 2 cars pitted. He's down much quicker this time. They're waiting for the fuel again. He's got it. He's gone.
There is Dan Gurney. You heard him slide the car into gear as it dropped down off the onboard jacks. Juan Fangio will leave Mid-Ohio and head for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where he will drive a factory Toyota with Jan Lammers and Jeff Lees from England. Dan Gurney, of course, a winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, co-driving with A.J. Foyt in 1967.
That's right. Old Dan's done a bit of everything in racing. Indy cars, won at Indy. Could well make a return to IndyCar. Cleaned up well and truly in IMSA, both in GTU, GTO, and now GTP. And done an all-round staggering job for America. And one of the best loved drivers, too. I mean, I remember when I was just getting started, and he used to duke it out with Jimmy Clark. He was about the only person that really could drive with Jimmy Clark.
One of the most successful drivers and car owners of all time, with another success apparently on its way. The International Motorsports Association sanctions a number of racing series, but preeminent among them is the Camel GT. Welcome back to the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. The 99 of Juan Manuel Fangio II makes its way around in the race lead, but the Toyota team appears to be struggling with fuel problems. Keep in mind that up until today, the Toyota team of Dan Gurney's All-American Racers in GTP competition had no poles, no fast laps, and no victories here at Mid-Ohio. PJ Jones got them their first pole. Juan Fangio is looking for that first victory, but there are question marks hanging over the team.
question marks and reliability with this team now are certainly a relative term. They certainly seem to be going pretty well at the moment, but there was that fuel pickup problem or whatever it was with PJ Jones's car, sorry, Parnelli. But Fangio here seems to be running very smoothly, and the car sounds just fine.
Juan Fangio, 35 years of age, from Balcarce, Argentina, now living in Miami, Florida. His son Juanito was born on the Lime Rock Camel GT weekend 2 years ago and now accompanies Dad to many of the races during the year. Juan was honored by a day in the town of Miami, Juan Fangio Day, back on May 22nd. As Dan Gurney likes to say, he's a chip off the old block, meaning, of course, Juan Manuel Fangio, the 5-time Formula One world champion. And speaking of Dan Gurney, he's standing by right now with Marty Reed in the pit lane. PJ is closing in, Marty.
Well, down here with Dan Gurney again, have you figured out the fuel situation and why you were off on your calculations?
A little bit.
Are you going to share it with us?
Well, we're just sort of trying to uncover it right now, but I think we misunderstood Juan as saying that he was blubbering or running out, when in fact he wasn't. It was something else. And we stopped 2 laps before we should have. Therefore, we're going to run out 1 lap before the end.
So what was the real problem?
As far as PJ is concerned, I imagine it was some kind of a bubble that made it look like it was full, but it wasn't.
And then Juan?
A misunderstanding on the radio.
So there you got it.
Dan had that go away Marty Reed look about him there, didn't he?
He is one of the most straightforward people you will ever want to meet. A great gentleman and great company.
Yeah, and there's 98. Of course, I mentioned Parnelli Jones a few moments ago, and of course it's just 30 years ago this year that Parnelli won the Indy 500. And there's PJ Parnelli's son, and I wonder if Juanito is going to do the same thing as his father in 30 years' time.
There is Dan Marvin from Berkeley, California, sharing the lead in the Camel Lights class with teammate Parker Johnstone.
Drifting over the top of the hill there, fine style, looking good.
Distinctive engine note to that 3-liter V6 Acura engine, the same engine used in the Acura NSX sports car.
There are those marks I was telling you about as the cars lift off. We've had a number of races here this weekend, leaving plenty of rubber on the top of that little hill. Dan Marvin coming into the carousel now. There we see some of the other Camel Lights runners, including the number 63 car, the blue and yellow, which of course is lying second to the car of Dan Marvin.
Jim Downing is in the car. His teammate Tim McAdam is out, and he's standing by with Marty Reed.
Well, we finally caught up with Tim McAdam. He went back to get some attention. It's been awfully hot, and I asked you if they treated you, and you said, what, for ugliness?
Yeah, definitely. Serious ugly. No, it was really hot. We made a decision not to go with the cool suit. And about 45 minutes into I was dying. I mean, I was absolutely spent. So I went back and just dunked cold water all over myself to get back into some kind of normalcy. I was dizzy when I got out.
But you're okay now?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Still ugly, but I'm fine.
Good job, Timmy. That'll make the show.
All right, I'm back.
I meant to ask you, did you watch the NHL All-Stars last night?
Yes.
Wasn't that awesome? Those old guys, man, were... What? My idol, my mentor, Really? He taught me. That was awesome, man.
Oh, man.
I saw this gray hair.
What are you guys doing?
Oh, we're just eavesdropping.
Okay, so anyway, there I came in. It's like old guys with gray hair with no helmets, and I'm going through the channels and went,
oh, I watched the whole thing. I was dying.
It was great. It was great. Yeah, LaFleur, the first goal.
There's a race going on here, and you guys are talking hockey?
Well, this guy is a big-time hockey player.
I know he used to play. What did you do?
Oh, I love watching it, but I'm not silly enough to play it. I drive race cars. It's safe.
Both of them are sick. Very sick.
It was awesome.
I loved it. That was neat.
And those
We
guys,
can get out of here.
Tim McAdam plays hockey with a nose like that. Now that is really sticking your neck out.
Tim McAdam, I'll have you know, is a former junior Olympic hockey player for the United States. He coaches his child's hockey team. I say child's because you may be guessing wrong. It's his daughter's hockey team in Vail, Colorado, and she is a pretty terrific hockey player too. In fact, Tim McAdam is one of the most physically fit drivers in this series. So you can imagine what it's like in those cars when a guy of his level of fitness says, I was dying in the race car. We'll be right back. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, and Marty Reed. Glad to have you with us for the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. There goes the white number 99 Toyota of race leader Juan Fangio. Here comes the number 98 sister car of second place P.J. Jones. There is the second place Camel Lights machine of Jim Downing, the three-time class champion. And we have more action in the pits. Let's get down to Marty Reed in the Momo pits.
Derrick Bell brings the third place Momo Nissan into the pits. The crew goes over the wall, and it'll be a full 4-tire stop and a full load of fuel. This will definitely put them within their window. They will not have to stop after this. We still don't know what's going to happen with the Toyotas. That battle has yet to unfold. Right now, the Nissan 3 laps down, but Derrick Bell picking right up where his teammate and car owner Jean-Pierre Moretti left off. They've been giving this car a good, steady run all day. It's just a shame they don't have enough horsepower and don't have enough handling to compete with the two Toyotas.
Derrick Bell, the two-time world champion, back underway as Kevin Durant and the crew clean up. Now there's Wayne Taylor. We've been getting some grinding sounds out of that race car. Let's listen.
Engine sounds okay, but there is rather a lot of transmission noise, and let's listen to him on the downshift down here. I'm going to hear it.
He's obviously off pace, and he was short shifting, going through the gearbox very quickly going up.
You can hear that rattling noise, which kind of sounds like microphone static. I don't think it is. I think it's gear clatter. You can just hear the engine over it. Be interesting to see. Is he going to come in the pits, because he's going through there pretty slowly for him.
Yeah, Wayne Taylor heads for the pits. Oh, the car sounds really
terrible.
awful now.
Yeah.
Let's get down to Marty Reed.
Wayne Taylor brings the car in, but guys, I got to tell you, it doesn't sound like they know what's going on here in the pits. This is a regular routine stop. They have communication on the radio, and I'm not sure whether Wayne has been able to tell them exactly what's wrong inside the cockpit, but they are planned to only do a regular 4-tire stop, gas and go, and then they're out of here.
Car running very quietly. I thought he had switched it off for just a moment.
I think he just freewheeled that last. Yeah, I think that's gear clatter, isn't it?
Terrible rattle. I did that once, and my dad never forgave me.
That could be no clutch, of course, that does that, but on the other hand, that wouldn't be the clutch, of course, it's that rattle. Don't like the sound of that at all.
Saw Wayne Taylor's head ratcheting around in the cockpit, too. A very rough ride with what is obviously a sick car. There is Derrick Bell to the left of your screen in the twin-turbo Momo Nissan. Then John Higgins in the Porsche Fab car, and then one of two examples of the world sports car chassis in this race. That is Brent O'Neil from Miami, Florida, in what is essentially, as I mentioned earlier, a chopped-down Camel Lights prototype. Not at all like the exotic sorts of world sports car open cockpit chassis that we expect to see in the series, perhaps as early as next year. We mentioned that there are several cars out there. We'd like you to know a little bit more about that. Brent O'Neil now steps aside along with Higgins to let race leader Juan Fangio come through. This is the future of the International Motorsports Association and the Camel GT Series. So why don't we take a closer look? Here is Marty Reed with a bit of an artist's conception of what the Camel GT is likely to look like in years to come.
Whenever you make a major change in racing, the skeptics load both barrels. Such is the case with IMSA's switch to the new world sports car for '94. But with as many as 7 different chassis like the Chevron and Kudzu, IMSA officials have some hard facts to deflect the skeptics' bullets.
Well, it's kind of interesting. As we're halfway through 1993, the ball has really started to roll. anytime you create a new series, and that's in effect what we're doing with World Sports Cars, it takes a little while to get off the ground. We are actually a little bit ahead of schedule.
The idea behind the World Sports Car is to bring down the cost of racing by standardizing chassis design and limiting technology. Current GTP cars can run as high as $750,000 a copy. The target IMSA is shooting for, with the likes of the Gunner in the WSC, is $250,000 apiece.
We actually had 2 or 3 people who called us and said, we've just about got our cars ready to go, and we need a little bit of final information on them. So talking to Chevron Cars over in England, they plan on racing with us before the end of this year with a brand new car. Talking with, out of the blue, somebody that's put a Dodge V6 engine in a car and has made a World Sports Car out of it. So we're really quite pleased. Also, we just had an announcement from Ferrari in Italy that they would be building a car to our specifications. And I think that kind of whets everyone's appetite. You'd kind of like to go out and race against the Ferrari and have a chance to beat him.
As in any new project, building momentum is the key. With the likes of Ferrari coming over from Europe and the great American chassis builders like Riley and Scott supporting the effort, IMSA is more confident than ever the World Sports Car has taken off.
There have been difficult times for IMSA in recent seasons, but now it appears that they have a plan, a direction, a vision, if you will, and it remains to be seen how it's all going to work out. But as Marty mentioned, it's looking very good right now. But when you get a name like Ferrari involved, you know you're on to something. Now here comes Wayne Taylor. We've been listening to his gearbox sounding like it's full of loose bolts. He's back into the pits for the second time, and that means only one thing. There are problems, and now it looks like the bodywork is going to come off. Something obviously more difficult. They're going to have to dig deeper, get out the wrenches, and see if they can get Wayne Taylor back out there. Off comes the nose on the Danka Chevrolet GTP. Once again, here's Marty Reed.
The bonnet is off the back, as David Hobbs would say, and they are working furiously on the Chevrolet. Now, Wayne Taylor has told the crew that there is a vibration, a bottoming, and it felt like the clutch may be going away, and they are checking it. They're taking a look, and they don't look very encouraging with what they're finding. We'll keep you posted.
Well, this is tough news for Wayne Taylor. We mentioned he's been trying to break a streak of absolutely miserable racing luck in recent races, but it looks like it will not be broken today. Meanwhile, the Toyotas cruise serenely along, assuming they don't have further problems with their fuel, and that is still definitely a question. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio, where lots of questions remain to be answered. There is P.J. Jones in the second place Toyota Eagle Mark III. Does he have the fuel he needs to last the distance? His teammate Juan Fangio also has fuel questions. Wayne Taylor's Spice has gearbox problems. They are all still out there circulating as the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio continues. Wayne Taylor going out the bottom of your picture. Here comes the race leader, Juan Fangio, looking for victory number 5 in a row in 1993.
Having just passed the car of Jim Downey, lying second in the Camel Lights, but just look how fast they are compared to those Camel Lights cars.
Rocketing along. Should Fangio win, or P.J. Jones for that matter, it would be the 13th in a row for Toyota. Whoa, traffic jam.
Actually, in that jam is, I think, Wayne Taylor's car, the number 8 car, going slowly down the straight there.
Let's take another look from Wayne Taylor's car. He's definitely just poking along out there.
There you go.
Boy, that was close. Wayne Taylor's car, obviously, the minutes are numbered. Cruising around in first or second gear, he may have nothing but neutral. Let's get down to the pits and Marty Reed.
Well, guys, the update on Wayne Taylor is that the problem is not the clutch, it's in the differential. They're going to go out, they're just going to try and nurse it home to bring it home for the finish.
And so Wayne Taylor's trials and tribulations continue. Now here, listen to that popping sound. More fuel pickup problems, it would appear, for the 98 of P.J. Jones. He heads for the pit lane. Marty Reed hustles down to the Toyota pits. P.J. Jones could be looking at the end of his race. Maybe another load of fuel will do it for him. Let's see.
you can see him rocking the car back and forth, trying to get enough fuel to make it to the pits. He has done it. They are going to make a tire change, and they're going to give him enough fuel to go the rest of the way, but will it be enough for him to be able to catch Juan? If Juan does not have to stop for gas, there's literally no way he can do it. But that's still the question that has to be answered by Dan Gurney and Team Toyota. The change is complete, the fuel's in, and PJ's out of here.
And how he's out of there too. I'll tell you what, that's amazing about that little 4-cylinder turbo, the way they can spin the tires. I remember when I first started to race turbo cars, only like, about 14 years ago, you could no more spin the tires on a turbo car than fly. You can just never get enough throttle response. These guys, they just drop the clutch. It's just like a normally aspirated car, rocket out the pits. Quite extraordinary.
And the pit work of the All-American Racers Toyota team. If you look at PJ and his record in all 5 races this year, that tells you a lot about why he is the points leader in this race. The pit work of the team is absolutely exemplary. When Juan Fangio first brought this car out a couple of years ago, the Toyota Eagle Mark III, he missed a victory in its very first race because of sloppy pit work. But now these guys operate like clockwork. Hard braking now for the right-hander, very fast uphill corner. One of the most difficult racing circuits in North America, Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Juan Fangio with the race lead, hoping to overtake PJ Jones for the lead in the championship. Meanwhile, back down in the pit lane, Marty Reed is standing by with Dan Gurney. Marty, take it away.
Juan's got a 50-second lead by your clock. Are you going to bring him in?
We're going to decide shortly.
You keep throwing this drum out.
Well, you're asking difficult questions.
That's my job.
I think so, but it depends on how much faith we have in all of our high-tech equipment.
Boy, you're a lot more trusting than a lot of guys would be. With a 50-second lead, wouldn't the easy thing be to just bring him in?
Yeah, but we're trying to be calm.
Well, that is the downside of technology, isn't it? You have to have faith in it.
You have to have blind faith in all that telemetry and everything else on the car that tells you how much further it's got to go and the rate at which it's using the fuel up. Obviously, you have to believe it. But of course, you can still have a mechanical problem where for instance, it would appear to be in PJ's case that it's actually not picking up the fuel in the tank for some probably strange mechanical reason, nothing to do with the telemetry.
There you saw the gap from the second place car of PJ Jones to this car. The race leader, Juan Fangio, is moving in to put his teammate a lap down. Fangio leads teammate PJ Jones, but the question remains whether or not these cars are mechanically perfect. Problems with fuel for Jones, and Fangio may be suffering the same problem.
Certainly doesn't sound like it at the moment. You hear the brake, the back end there break loose as he goes over that bump. Tremendous torque and power from this very small 2.2 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine.
Now Fangio is headed for the pits. Marty Reed is standing by in the pits of the All-American Racers Toyota team. Take it away, Marty.
Here comes Juan Fangio screaming into the pits. Now the question's going to be, will the Toyota team change tires? Remember, PJ's on fresh rubber. That may be an advantage. This is going to be gas and go only, guys. He is just chomping at the bit. The fuel tank ring is out. He is out of here, almost going sideways.
And now he will launch himself, well, just ahead of traffic. I thought there might have been a close moment there for the race leader, but apparently not.
Again, the ability of that Toyota to light up the rear tires, and I remember it's 16 years ago this race that BMW won their first IMSA race with me at the wheel of the 320 Turbo, and that year we had a job to light the tires up. By 1978 we'd adjusted the turbocharging inlet to the extent that we could start to light the tires up on that little BMW, but these guys have really got it down to an art now.
And you immediately ran the tires right off the car.
Absolutely loved it. Pit crew hates it. Think of those drive shafts.
Underneath, Camel Lights leader Dan Marvin goes race leader Juan Fangio.
Good pass there. Dan Marvin looked like he was going a bit slow, I thought. I hope he hasn't got a problem. He may have just been giving him plenty of room, that's all.
Parker Johnstone and Dan Marvin well out ahead of the Camel Lights class by over a lap right now, so Dan Marvin can afford to keep the speed down. We have been absolutely caution-free in this race. As a result, The race itself is going down at an absolutely furious pace.
Well, of course, to go back to what I was saying before, pole this year was 1:11, 1 minute 11.3 seconds, 113.5 miles an hour by P.J. Jones. And right back in the middle of the pack was Brent O'Neil at a 1:30. And I seem to remember that I got into like a 29.9 or something in the BMW, which is an absolute screaming lap record of the day, which of course is a cool 89 miles an hour. But of course that is 16 years ago too, so fair bit of time.
There goes Dan Marvin. I remember that 320i, big fender flares, all that sort of thing.
Big flames coming out of the exhaust pipe. That was the thing that everybody remembers too about that car.
There is Dan Marvin, Berkeley, California. One of those 20-year overnight sensations in racing. Dan Marvin put in lots of time, winning in Formula Atlantic, winning in Camel Lights. Always been a little bit of an understudy, but he is a guy who would be a great team leader. Very soft-spoken man. Not exactly going to light up the TV cameras, but boy, inside the race car, you get consistently and winning performance.
There's part of his crew watching him, sweeping through that turn one. Now he comes up to the keyhole, taking his time to get through here. You've got to come off here well to get a good lap time. You've got to make a good job of that keyhole, although it's a slow corner. As I said before, if you can come off with a couple of 100 RPM up, you keep that 200 all the way down this long straightaway. Having a pretty lonely race at the moment, probably wishing that somebody was a bit closer.
Here's the second place car in the Camel Lights class, number 63. This is Jim Downing, one of the pioneers in this class, and the man who helped design and build that kudzu chassis they're driving. Now this is Bob Shader sharing with Bob Earl today. Looks like he's going to need a little splash and go. Fuel only. Kind of odd to see a Camel Lights car. They're very good on fuel mileage. Odd to see somebody coming in late in a race for fuel in a lights machine.
Yeah, it is a bit. Maybe they on their first stop didn't quite fill it up for some reason or other that we don't know about, because it is unusual to see one make 3 stops.
Here comes the nearly identical Acura Spice of the Comtech team. We mentioned before, the Comtech team builds engines, the Acura V6s, both for their own use and for that Motorola Racing Spice that Bob Earl and Bob Shader are driving around. The difference is in the bodywork. Strong cutouts behind those front wheels on the number 9 Bricks Racing car, not on the 49 Comtech car. Here's the 99 of Juan Fangio. We'll be back for more racing from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We are back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in the closing laps of the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio, round 6 on the IMSA Camel GT Championship for 1993. There's Juan Fangio, looking for his 5th victory in a row in 1993. The only race he did not win thus far was the season opening 24 Hours of Daytona.
However, his teammate P.J. Jones did win that race, which of course was the first time that this Toyota team with their 4-cylinder engine has won a 24-hour endurance race. They won the Sebring 12-hour last year, 1992, so this car has proved itself to be incredibly fast and incredibly reliable.
Tribute to Dan Gurney and his team, Gary Donahoe, the team manager, Drino Miller and the engine crew from Toyota Racing Developments. 18 wins in 64 Camel GT starts for Juan Fangio. That's a pretty slick winning percentage by anybody's standards. On the other hand, Parker Johnstone's winning percentage in Camel Lights way up over 50%. He's really had his way in the Acura Spice. Now there is P.J. Jones running second, drawing ever closer to a record-tying 7th 1-2 sweep for the All-American Racers Toyota team.
Well, there's not many laps to go now, but there's many a slip, twixt, cup and lip, as they say, and knowing racing, and we also know that PJ does have some sort of a problem with his fuel system, and I've found over the years of racing that those problems, once they start, usually get worse as the race progresses, because whatever it is that's blocking up the pipe or whatever it is gets worse and worse. It's usually just a little bit of rubber in there that covers some vital hole over to let fuel out or in, whichever the case may be. And they sort of have a nasty habit of moving around. So I expect he's got his fingers crossed.
Well, hopefully there'll be no clips between the slip and the drip or whatever it was you said earlier.
And there we see Dan Marvin about to go past Ed DeLong in the Buick Tiger. Again, got to be very careful, and of course, at this point in the game, Marvin doesn't want to take any risks because he's a clear leader in that class. Out drags Ed along up pit straight, sort of only just, but is much, much quicker through turn 1, and that's a combination of a lot of downforce and more horsepower, I would say, that allows him to have more downforce.
Dan Marvin, should he go on to win this race, it will be his 4th of the year. Parker Johnstone teamed with Ruggiero Melgrati at Miami earlier this year, but Dan Marvin's been in on just about all of the other wins. He was second in the championship last year to his teammate Johnstone. Very likely to be second again this year, as we're at the halfway point of the season. He and his teammate have moved well away from the rest of the field. Here is Fangio once again.
Fangio taking his time around the keyhole, laying into that 2.2-litre four-cylinder, rocketing down the straight. Now this is one of those things where you're racing, obviously he's not being too cool because his mate PJ Jones is not so far behind him, but the worst thing your racing driver can do with a clear lead is to relax too much, because I tell you, once you just relax beyond a certain point, that's when things start to go wrong and you make mistakes. It's unbelievable. You'd think that when you're on the ragged edge, that's when you make the mistakes. It's not when you make the mistakes. When you make the mistakes, it's when you just really try and cool it.
Final lap for Juan Fangio, who cleared well over $500,000 in earnings in the Camel GT last year. In addition to prize money for his 7 victories, he also picked up the $200,000 Champions bonus and the $100,000 Camel Pyramid bonus during one of the wild card events, during which anybody could pick up the first-time winner's bonus that had rolled over at the clip of $20,000 a race. Checkered flag out from IMSA flagman Jim Sidley. Juan Fangio has race victory number 5 in a row in 1993, and he will take the lead over his teammate PJ Jones in the run for the 1993 Camel GT Championship and another $200,000 bonus.
And that is win number 13 for the team. PJ pulls up. Obviously that fuel problem is a problem.
Now here comes Dan Marvin, securing victory for himself, for teammate Parker Johnstone, and for the Comtech Acura Spice team. The yellow flag waves over the parked Toyota of PJ Jones, but there is Juan Fangio, who definitely had to wrestle with his teammate for this one. There was contact between the two of them on more than one occasion, and more than one occasion, Juan had to come back to take it from one of the toughest young racing drivers in the world, PJ Jones. It's a 1-2 for Toyota, and that ties a record. We'll be back to meet our winner. This ESPN presentation has been brought to you by Bud Light. If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. Back at Mid-Ohio, the celebration has begun for Juan Fangio, who takes his 5th victory in a row over teammate PJ Jones, followed by Jean-Pierre Moretti and Derrick Bell, and the winning Camel Lights team of Parker Johnstone and Dan Marvin. Now let's get down to Victory Lane, where Marty Reed is standing by with our winner.
For the 4th straight time, Juan Fangio, a hot but very elated victor.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I mean, it was a very hard race because you keep turning all the time and working with the traffic and everything. PJ did a wonderful job also during the race. And, well, at the end, it was our race, but it was great. I think it was a good race all day long.
Nothing can be easy. The fuel pickup problem, at least it occurred to both cars.
Right, exactly, but, you know, all kind of situations are involved in these races. So at the end, everything was working very good for me, and I want to thank TRD, Toyota, All American Racers, and the full team, because, you know, I mean, the car never stopped, keep running, and, you know, always in great shape. And you know, I want to thank all the guys.
4 straight wins and 1 to grow on for Juan Fangio. Now, moments ago, PJ Jones climbed out of his race car, obviously frustrated and disappointed. Father Parnelli was there, as was car owner Dan Gurney.
Tough break. That was one great drive. That would have been fantastic.
And he's standing by now with Marty.
I guess the first question I got to ask you is what happened right at the end when you brought the car to a sudden stop?
Oh, we had electrical fire in the dash, and it just started smoking right as I crossed the start finish. And so I thought it'd be best to stop here in front of the guys, and they can make sure the fire was out.
Except for the fuel pickup problem, it seemed like it was going to be a great day.
It was looking that way. You know, we were fast, and you know, what can you say? We've been snake bit right at the end the last 4 races, and just another one. I mean, you only can do your job and the best you can, and you know, we'll get one eventually. But
I agree with that. He will get one eventually. P.J. Jones now finds himself in a dead-on tie with his teammate as we look at the Camel GT points following today's race. Fangio and Jones neck and neck with no team orders for the IMSA Camel GT Championship. Jean-Pierre Moretti with 75 in third place, followed by his teammate Derrick Bell and John Paul Jr. with 50. Now let's get back down to victory lane and meet our Camel Lights winners.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
It's my turn.
Get out of here. No. You've had enough airtime today. We're talking to the man who did all the work.
Not at all.
Oh.
You better take your glasses off.
I'm just kidding. But you didn't hear what happened. He's talking hockey while you're out there working.
Well, why not? You know, it's something to pass the time.
You guys were on cruise, though.
Well, yeah, to a large extent. Parker did the work at the beginning, gave me a nice cushion, and it was a matter of preserving the tires, which was a real significant factor here today. It's hot out there, and the tires know it, and the drivers know it, and the cars know it. So, yeah, it was a matter of sort of maintaining the cushion that Parker gave me. Thank you very much.
And just to prove that I was only kidding, now, do you want to say anything now? This is a bad question for me to ask you, asking you if you want to say anything.
Oh, the guys did a great job. I mean, the whole team, the ComTech crew was fantastic, and it's one of those things where you can never let off because of our competitors, and the traffic was hard on everybody, but it was really good to come back to Mid-Ohio, the home of American Honda, and put it on the pole, set fastest race lap, lead from flag to flag. Dan did a great job, crew did a great job, and we're just really happy to go to Watkins Glen with 5 in a row.
Now do you understand why I like talking to you? Because he just goes on and on and on. I told him at the beginning of the race we only have 2 hours.
Marty, you're supposed to say there's a time limit to this event, and in 5,000 words or less, ...
Congratulations, guys. You did great.
Thank you.
Good going.
That's right, folks. They're not just a great driving tandem, they are also a song and dance act. Parker Johnstone and Dan Marvin. Here's a look at Camel Lights point standing. Johnstone out front for a possible third-class championship. Jim Downing and Tim McAdam tied for second, and Dan Marvin moving up the charts in 4th position. We'll give you a look at the full field rundown. David Hobbs, your thoughts?
Well, of course, Jones and Banjo put on an incredible display of aggressive driving, but you've got to hand it to Moretti and Bell with a combined age of 101. They put on a heck of a show to come 3rd in that race.
And we want you to know that in his final professional appearance in racing, Dick Lepla got his car back out there. The Chevron finished the show in 16th place. I'm Bob Barsha for David Hobbs and Marty Reed. Thanks for being with us. So long from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio.